Ladies and gentlemen, we are here on the starting grid at the Masaryk Racing Circuit for the final time today, and it is also the final time this season that we are going to go and race in the endurance category. Basically, it's the last 1 hour long race of the 2023 season in the ESET Cup Series. Let's top off the Saturday's program here in this wonderful weather on this wonderful weekend. We've got the cars lined up on the starting grid, and it is Miro Konopka, who's already taken quite a lot of victories in the championship, and he sits on pole position with his LMP2 Ligier. Right here on my right-hand side, on your left-hand side, and actually right behind me is the GT3 class leader and, of course, champion Filip Salaquarda. Let's actually go through the grid, shall we, and have a quick chat with the fastest man of qualifying. Ooh. We're sorry, interrupting the picture for the ARC Bratislava team, of course. They are now taking the team picture. They need to have great memories of the season once again. Even Adam Konopka is here on the grid to support the entire team. An armada of guys in black and yellow t-shirts. I wonder if we can actually cut through so many people. Such a large team, such a great season for you once again. Position.
Yes, it's a last event, ESET Cup Series, and I take a lot of mechanic. I have 4 cars, and it's a little bit celebration after season. I hope it will be good race, and we will see nice weather, nice series this year. I think really good season.
Every time we meet you in the paddock, it's not only the Le Mans prototypes, it's also GT3, it's the Renault Clio car, it's the Mazda MX-5. It's a gigantic family that you have here, basically.
Yes, a lot of car, but I have a lot of friends and my son running, and this year helping my son that I take also Mazdas, and we will see next season, but I hope again in the ESET Cup.
Wonderful, Miro. Best of luck and enjoy your afternoon.
Thank you.
That's Miro Konopka sitting on pole position here in Brno in his Ligier, and we will make our way to the other side of the front row of the grid, because we have got Filip Salaquarda, dominant in the 2023 season. I'm sorry, I'll just try and squeeze a couple of words. Filip, so the extremely successful season is coming to its end. This is the last endurance race. You are sitting on pole position in the GT3 class, front row. What is your view and basically wishes from the last race?
Yeah, we have to be very careful with the tires, because after 25 minutes our tires looks not so good. So now we have to survive double, like 1 hour. So I have to be really careful not to slide and not to push too much. Otherwise it will be difficult to finish in a normal way.
Thank you. Have a good one. And coming to the second row of the grid, guess who is at home in Brno? Guess who's the home team? It's of course Michanek Motorsport. And we have got Kurt Wagner on the grid on row number 2 for their final endurance race. Also team boss Jirka Michanek here on the grid, and the entire Michanek Motorsport ensemble in its all beauty, as is usual for their home event, of course. I beg your pardon, very sorry. Kurt, hi, the last endurance race of the season, and Michanek Motorsport with its entire presence here. This must feel very great for the season end.
Yes, that's true. It's very nice. A lot of fans here, so we enjoy it.
Okay, thank you so much. Have a great race. And if we still may, we'll try. Excuse me. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. of course, in its all beauty, as I mentioned. Hi. Let's try and see if we can still manage a couple of words with the guy on the other side of the second row. It's also the third-placed man, Libor Milota, last year's sprint champion. He's been having great races this season as well. Libor Milota in front of the last endurance race of the season. The weather is beautiful. The track is, I guess, also very much enjoyable. So how do you see the last endurance race of the season? Of course, sprint coming tomorrow.
Yes, Pavel, thank you very much. I'm very happy that I stay here, and I'm very happy that we have very nice weather, and here is a lot of fans from Czech Republic, and I hope that we will have very good race for our team and for fans on the tribune. Yes.
Okay, have a good one. Enjoy it. And we hope that everyone really enjoys the last one. It's the last 1 hour race of the season. We still have quite a lot of cars, mixed classes, mixed brands, mixed types of engines, layouts, everything what we love from the GT and prototype racing. It is of course also Václav Janík in the KTM, the other KTM prepared by RTR Projects team sharing the third row of the grid, the two GTX cars. And we'll see how this battle actually pans out. And you know what? Let's just go back and let's enjoy the last one.
Kromě jiných týmů jezdí s týmem Rowe a jeho osobními inženýry v těch velkých světových závodech jsou kdo? Janek Janiš a Erik Janiš. Oba dva výborní dříve závodníci. Dneska se svezou už jenom výjimečně, ale jsou skvělými inženýry na světové scéně vozů Grand Turismo, čili Sportscar. No a sledujeme.
So we are here at the start of the formation lap for the final one, for the final endurance race of the 2023 season. And we've just been on the grid together. Always great to have a chat, a couple of words before the race starts. We have Miro Konopka now sitting alone with his car on pole position, but you've just seen how many people they actually have here. And also usually you see the ARC Bratislava colors in so many classes that we get to see each race weekend. Alongside ISR Racing from Prague, Filip Salakvarda sitting on pole position when it comes to the GT3 cars. Row number 2, Libor Milota, and alongside him it's Kurt Wagner, who is starting the race for Michanek Motorsport. They are the true homeboys here, and Kurt Wagner is going to then swap duties at the wheel at the pit stop halfway, at the halfway mark, round about the halfway mark of the race with Josef Záruba. As usual, behind it is actually a very interesting battle between the two GTX KTMs. We have got Václav Janík in P5, and alongside him for the start of the race it's Petr Lisa. And these two actually spent some time racing together because in the past, Petr Lisa was actually part of Janík Motorsport team, and he was helping out Václav Janík, and they were also racing Le Mans prototypes together. Now it is Petr Lisa in RTR Projects team together with Pavel Sovička, who is going to step in at the pit stop. Franz Lahmer in the Porsche number 825 in P7, and then we were supposed to have the second Michanek Motorsports Lamborghini on row number 4 in 8th. However, something didn't really go as planned, probably, and Matěj Pavlíček, who is supposed to take the last race of the season after the respective battle in the sprint races, they are scheduled to take the race together with Joachim Galaš. They are entered into the season finale, maybe with the outlook to the up-and-coming season 2024. We'll see what that one brings. So Matěj Pavlíček, but we saw him actually sitting at the end of the pit lane, so he will only join the grid at its end or at the back after the pit lane start. So he'll have to actually cut through the field in his fight in the GTC class. Adam Centner and Maciej Marcinkiewicz, they are together in the car number 33. I mean, not together at the same time, but of course racing together in the endurance race, and they are P9 for the grid. Bob Bau in P10, and outside the top 10 it is János Santa in his Aston Martin Vantage, Richard Vosic P12, and then Antal Žigo in his GT4 M4 BMW. There he is in those white and red colors. Alongside him, Manuel Susengut. He was unlucky in the sprint earlier on, could not take part in it. And then we have got Max Hess in the M6 BMW GT3, and together with him Antonín Herbeck in the Rock Robots Pagani Zonda. Lubo Jakubík in his pace car re-entering the pits now, and we are about to start the final race of the day, the 1 hour long endurance as is usual for the Saturday program. The cars are getting ready, and away we go. Miro Konopka from pole position, taking the lead immediately at the start. Filip Salaquarda slotting in behind in second. Then it's Libor Milota, Kurt Wagner having a fight with Václav Janík into the first corner. Janík actually making up one place. He's coming to P4. Petr Lisa will try to do the same, not to lose touch with his opponent in the GTX class. There is Libor Milota in his Mercedes. He's going to try and fight for the GT3 victory. Of course, it's been a very hard fight, very challenging fight against the very experienced Filip Salaquarda, who's done pretty much everything in motorsport over his career. He was once stepping up the motorsport ladder in the single-seat world, reaching the Formula Renault 3.5, and actually even racing here in Brno back then. It was, what, 2010? That's already quite a bit of history. Back then he was teamed with Esteban Guerrieri in, but again, in his dad's team, ISR Racing back then. Before switching to GT cars. Václav Janík. He and his team have already had quite a lot of experience with hill climb racing as well. And now he's under pressure from the M6 Beamer. Look at Max Hess. He was actually on the final row of the grid. And look how fast he's actually making his way through the field in the GT3 class. And into third he goes when it comes to GT3s. Is P4 overall, as he's just overtaken Václav Janík. Wonderful, wonderful stuff. There is Kurt Wagner fighting it out with Petr Lisa. They are now coming up the hill towards the final S's. Ooh, and this is a big crash, massive crash. And the Lambo actually goes over its top and into the gravel. What happened there? That was a big one. Ooh, and we hope that Kurt Wagner is all right. He had a pretty nasty tumble in the final corner, and this might very well bring out the first safety car of the day at its very end. That was a big crash that happened right in the final corner, and Kurt Wagner is in the gravel. This is not the way he hoped the season would end. Fighting for the championship glory. And that was a big one. So we're still looking at the Lambo, which has already lost its rear wing. I assume there was a kind of a wheel-to-wheel contact. Now the marshals and firefighters are at the scene of the crash. Taking a look at and also, Petr Lissa is out of the race on the first lap as well. That's a very, very unfortunate situation for both of the cars and both of the drivers. You see the front left tire completely gone. Not the way these two guys hoped their evening would go. That was a big one. Really very unnecessary. And Kurt Wagner is already out of the car. Yeah, unfortunately, we only saw the result of that. What happened there? Did Kurt Wagner close the door on Petr Lissa, or did Petr just understeer into him, or was there a puncture that maybe sent him into Kurt Wagner? We saw the front left tire gone away from the car, and we also saw Kurt Wagner, who's already stepped out of the car, which was good. He was standing on his own feet. Now the rest of the pack is gonna come around once again at the end of the lap 2 to be collected at the, after the safety car, behind the safety car. I assume it was no terribly big hit as such with high G's involved. It was just a sort of a tumble, very unfortunate tumble after the incident with RTR Project's KTM. Petr Lissa, of course, very much disappointed. And he probably still can't believe what just happened. We're also glad to see that he is out of the car. We just had a chat right before the start of the race in the pits. They were really enjoying themselves, the KTM working very well. They knew that they were facing a very hard race against Václav Janík in his own GTX KTM, but we were very much looking forward to that because both of the cars have been working really well. But now we're never gonna know how that fight would actually go. So hang on, is Kurt Wagner actually out of the car? I saw in the distance on one of the other cameras, I saw a man in a helmet in a black overall walking around the car. It was really like a shot out of focus rather, and it was in the distance. I was trying to see whether he was out or not, but I believe I saw him. I believe he's out. Maybe the track marshals are now just taking interest in the controls of the car to be able to work with it and retrieve it back. I assume that should there be any more concern regarding the well-being and health of Kurt Wagner, we would probably already have a red flag. This was the tumble. Luckily, the structure and the entire tub of the car is very strong. It's all carbon fiber, plus there's also the mandatory roll cage installed in the car. And with that, such incidents are actually shouldn't be that much of a worry, actually. There's also a rescue vehicle about to retrieve the car of Petr Lissa, but since it's now completely missing the front left tire, I assume that he doesn't really want to keep rolling with the car. Otherwise, he would have already driven it into the pits himself, because the engine was still working and it was on. So he just pulled up and stopped to avoid any further damage. And I believe that we might need to wait for a flatbed truck to come and retrieve, well, probably even both cars. Still the Lambo's beached in the gravel. On the outside of the final corner there is Petr Lisa in discussions with the track marshals. How do we want to do that? Yeah, simply tow away I don't think is a viable option. That's what Petr is trying to say. Otherwise we're just risking further damage to the car, because basically they would be driving or dragging it with the front left sitting right on the ground. Okay, we see that once again. And now from a different angle in the distance. Unfortunately, we were missing the drone footage that we got on a number of occasions in this sector earlier on today. Okay, so the rest of the pack is now circulating around the track behind the safety car, and this way we're going to remain behind the safety car for quite some time, as we are finishing the first 10 minutes of the race. We've only done one lap under the green flag before that collision happened. So Miro Konopka is leading from Filip Salaquarda, Libor Milota third. Max Hess unbelievably came through the entire field to be fourth at the moment, and he started on the final row of the grid. Václav Janík is fifth from Franz Lamer in sixth, and Tony Herbeck also great start and great opening lap. He's up to seventh. Manuel Susengut up by 6 places, he's eighth. Bob Bau in P9, Antal Žigo P10. And beyond the top 10 we have got Richard Vosic, Janos Santa and Adam Centner. Also the other Lamborghini of Michanek Motorsport seems to already have retired, so not a lot that we've seen from them. We saw Maciej Pawliczek starting from the pit lane. He did one lap. Now he's back in the pits. And this is the very unfortunate way to end the day for the home team that, again, had such a presence on the starting grid. Even with the Miss Czech Republic. And grid girls, photographers, guests, and all the rest of that, to give itself a fitting ending to the otherwise wonderful season. They've just actually celebrated a double championship victory, because in one respect Joachim Galasch is actually already the sprint racing champion from earlier on today. Regarding the CEZ standings, there is still one more race to go, let's say one more point scoring and points counting race to go. So that one is about to be wrapped up tomorrow, should everything go up to the plan. But the team has already celebrated 2 championships today, and yeah, this is not the way they wanted their day to end. So it's now only the stranded Lambo in the gravel trap. I assume that Kurt Wagner would already really been out. I don't think that they would just left him sitting there should he not be fine. But I believe I saw him out of the car on one of the longer shots. Red flags. The race is red flagged. Yeah, we're going to need a little bit more. We're going to need a little bit more in this race to retrieve the cars. As mentioned, yeah, Petr Lisa does not want the track marshals to pull the car into the pits, otherwise they'd be just dragging it on the ground and damaging the entire splitter and all the underpinnings of it. And at the same time, the Huracan Lamborghini of Kurt Wagner is simply beached in the gravel trap on the outside of the final corner. And yeah, just trying to get a quick peek out of our broadcasting van, but unfortunately we're not at a very, very good angle. So yeah, either way, the race is red flagged currently, and we're gonna have to wait for more information from race control when it comes to potentially restarting it. The day is of course coming to its end, so we're now approaching the 6th hour, 6 p.m. So the sunset is supposed to come at 7:20, so we've still got quite a lot of time before that. But you already see that the shadows are getting longer, and it really depends on how long it will take now to retrieve the cars. Everyone will now get, and you saw Jiří Mičánek in the background in the red suit, in the team's colors. There's the other Lamborghini parked in the pit lane. So fortunately they left the retirement for the endurance race. It would have been a disaster for Matěj Pavlíček should that have come in the sprint race earlier on. Everyone will now stop on the start and well, basically on the starting grid. So the safety car is assuming the position at the front of the field, and we might have mechanics allowed back in, at least some of them, for the red flag period. Everybody's getting now in their current order formation. So it's Miro Konopka leading from Filip Salakvarda, who's leading the GT3 class. Then we've got Libor Milota, Max Hess in 3rd and 4th. Even team's mechanics are at the scene of the accident. They will help the track marshals to retrieve the car in such a way that is not going to cause any further damage. Well, joking around, you know, in motorsport, drivers and teams sometimes tend to say that, you know, it's the last race of the season. After that, we don't need the car anymore, so we can go all flat out and all in. That's definitely not what happened here. And it is very unfortunate that Kurt Wagner ended up in the gravel and at places facing the wrong way up. Yeah, there's the incident once again. Luckily also the car ended up the right way up in the end. It would have been, of course, much harder to get Kurt out of the car should it have stayed on its roof. And same goes for getting it away from the gravel trap. Right. So, let me just continue. Miro Konopka first from Filip Salakvarda, then Libor Milota and Max Hess behind him. Václav Janík in P5 from Franz Lámer, and the top 10 completed by Tony Herbeck, Manuel Susengut, Bob Bau and Antal Žigo, and behind the top 10 Richard Vosic, János Santa, Adam Centner, and that's actually it. 13 cars left on the track right now. Naturally, only team personnel now allowed on the track. No guests, no VIPs. That's a usual red flag procedure. And we are going to be given the 10-minute signal before the race gets restarted. Even on the live timing, the clock keeps ticking, but I am not sure really. Okay, no, it does keep ticking. It actually does keep ticking. So we'll see how much time we actually will have left at the end of the red flag period. I guess that's really upon the decision of the race control, because we need to really see how much longer we can go. I mentioned that the sunset is still more than an hour away, so that's not the issue now. It very much depends on how quickly we can retrieve the stricken cars of RTR Projects and Mechanic Motorsport.
Jak vidíme už v téhle chvíli, nakládáme, ano, to levé přední kolo, tady je to vidět, je opravdu zalomeno a už je pomalu auto odstraňováno z národní boxové uličky, respektive nakládáno na auto, které ho odveze. No a velký malý to už také zapřáhl lampo, to vypadá během chvíle, by snad měla být zprůjezdněná i ta poslední zatáčka.
So there it is, the Lamborghini being dragged away from the scene of the accident, and the KTM being now put on the flatbed. So it will be brought back to the pits shortly. There it is. Petr Lisa observing the retrieving action. And now leaving back for the pit lane. Yeah, it must have been a wheel-to-wheel contact that just sent the Lambo tumbling. Normally, with the cars that have basically closed wheels or covered wheels, we do not have this sort of accidents very often. It's rather usual for the single-seater racing where the wheels are exposed, and in case of a wheel-to-wheel incident, it's actually quite easy to send the car flying and getting airborne. With the so-called tin-top cars and prototypes, it's much harder, because you only ever hit the tires or hit the wheels side to side, but still you can reach angles that are actually so unfortunate that such incident occurs. It is not very common, but it does happen, and this type of motorsport is of course not prone. Well, it's not prone as much, but it's also not immune from such type of accident. Yeah. So I'm just getting quick messages from the paddock, and Kurt Wagner should be all fine, which is great to know. There is Max Hess, 22 years of age, the BMW factory driver, joining Trevor Racing for this weekend, and he shall hand over to Gregor Gigot at the pit stop, really depending now on how much of the race we have left. We should have, if I hear it well, yes, it's 8.5 minutes to the race restart. It's now displayed on the clock right above the grid on the pit gantry, right where the starting lights are. They are now all red, and of course when we come down to 5, they will just start shutting down or switching off one by one, and then we'll have our restart. For how long we still need to see. And until then, you can at least enjoy the highlights of the one lap that we've done so far.
Záběry. Je to možné, že to byla
Unfortunately, we did not see the initial phase of the incident, so we don't really know what caused it, whether it was just a simple, very unfortunate contact or a situation between the two drivers, or whether there was any sort of problem on the KTM. Again, from the info that we're getting, it seems that it was a racing incident, so no tire blowout on the KTM, which is simply an eventuality I can now think of, having not seen the initial phase of the incident. But we did see the tire completely off the rim on the KTM, so that just got me thinking maybe there was a puncture that sent the KTM on a straight trajectory into the Lambo, but maybe they just had an incident together and maybe could simply shut the door on Petra or whatever happened. We're gonna have to ask after the race. 6 minutes and we will get going once again. So not exactly the way we wanted to top the season. However, this is motorsport and these things simply happen. It's great to see that both drivers are fine. That's the most important thing of them all. And about the rest, we are going to see. Regarding the championship itself, Filip Salaquarda, an undisputed champion with 100 points to his name, over 74 that Libor Milota has, so the gap is already greater than what you get for one victory. It's 26 points before this race. Both of them are still in the race, but yeah, Salaquarda leading Milota for now. Filip Salaquarda actually taking all of the victories in races that he finished, apart from Slovakia ring round, where the car lost its clutch on one of the opening laps. And in the end, it was Jesse Krohn in Trevor Racing's M4 BMW. Trevor Racing actually had issues with the M4 earlier on in the weekend. The team had a problem with the M4 earlier on. They had a gearbox issue, and with that the car had to be retired from the weekend, and the team brought the spare car, which is the older generation of the factory GT3 Beamer. It's the M6. They still have it, and it's still raceable, so they brought it back, and right now it is Max Hess at the wheel of it, and he's going to hand over to Gregor Žigo at the pit stop. That's the plan for the race. Gregor Žigo 5th in the standings with 36 points. And the two drivers that are ahead of him in the standings, Piotr Vera and Dan Arrow, are not present in Brno. So chances are for Gregor Žigo to actually snatch 3rd overall in today's race. But he would actually have to win to get ahead of Piotr Vera, as he's trailing him by 22 points. So the only position where you get more than 22 points is the first place, of course. Regarding his gap to Dan Arrow, it's only 7 points. So the chances are rather large for him to actually get at least the P4 in the overall GT3 standings. When it comes to GT4, Antal Žigo is on his way to win it. because he's leading the class and no other GT4 car is present. Then we've got the GTC classification where Kurt Wagner with Josef Zaruba did have the great chance to actually snatch the title from the pairing of Petr Brecka and Karel Neff. Unfortunately, that's not going to happen with the car ending up on its roof and then wheels again and retired from the race already. So that's the one title that Mechanik Motorsport will not get today, unfortunately. GTX classification, Petr Lisa and Pavel Sovička leading the class with 39.5 points, 2 points over Václav Janík, but with them retired, it's also now a position or title handed over for free to Václav Janík. Václav actually has to finish the race, that's all he needs to do to snatch the GTX title, which shouldn't be too hard for him. But of course, anything can happen in the motorsport, so we still have to wait for that one to happen. Actually, if the race was called off at this point, it would actually conserve the standings, and Václav Janík would be robbed of the opportunity to get the title to his side. But yeah, we are restarting the race in a very short time. In the TCX class, it's Radim Adamek and Bartosz Groszek, already crowned champions. And in Proto Drivers classification, it's Miro Konopka at 25 points with no competition that could take the title away from him here in Brno. So we're about to recommence the race and enter another sort of formation lap. It's basically going to be a restart under the safety car, behind the safety car, which basically means that this lap should already count again towards the race distance. All the team members are now gone and away from the grid, and the drivers are sitting in their cars with closed doors already. We're about to go racing again. Miro Konopka setting off with Filip Salakvarda in second. Libor Milota third. Then it's Max Hess, and we're really thrilled to see how the situation is going to pan out in the GT3 class. Václav Janík, one of the two remaining GTX cars in the field. This is actually the other one. It's the Aston Martin Vantage, fielded by János Santa, interestingly. Adam Centner and Maciej Marcinkiewicz in their Radical in the D5 class. So they are the only opposition to the race-leading LMP Ligier. And I beg your pardon, it's actually the LMP3 Ligier. So we have a de facto another formation lap. 47 minutes should still be remaining in this race if we basically stop the clock under the red flag conditions, which is normally what happens in a race. Of course, there is a certain maximum time that does not allow for the red flag race to be extend beyond a certain point. Of course, one of the natural points is the sunset, but as I mentioned, it still is more than an hour away. So were good for that one. Good on that part, but as I mentioned, this lap already counts towards the race distance, 46 minutes and some seconds on the clock. And at the end of this lap, we should get going once again. So with the safety car, we're trying to get away from the grid really quickly. There's Miro Konopka making his way around the final corner and onto another lap. We are racing again. The green flag is now being waved. And we are racing in Brno once again. Miro Konopka leading from Salakvarda. Libor Milota third. Max Hess fourth. And it's the 1, 2, 3. That's very interesting in the GT3 class currently. Salakvarda from Milota and Max Hess. Who is going to come out on top? This should be an interesting one. Max Hess immediately putting pressure on Libor Milota. Libor Milota has had a go in the GT Open Racing earlier on this year when he entered the Hungarian round to gain more experience in the international on the international level. Ooh, locking up a little bit into 5. And they are now entering the stadium section. Still some spectators left for this one, for the endurance race. These are the top 4 cars on the road, and they are already quite some way away from 5th placed Václav Janík, who's leading the GTX class, from Franz Lamer, who's now the GTC class leader. And I beg your pardon, there is actually a third GTX car still on the road, which is of course Tony Herbeck in his Pagani Zonda. I missed him as he actually made quite a large progress on the opening lap from the final row of the grid to come out to come up to P7 at the moment. So Tony Herbeck 7th. The other GTX car is the Aston Martin Vantage driven by János Santa. So we're completing the first lap after the restart. Konopka leading from Salakvarda. Milota defending from Max Hess. There they are. And Hess already having a look down the inside. Milota holding on. You need to bear in mind that what we're looking at is a clash of two worlds, really. Libor Milota, a privateer with his own team, doing all the races in the ESET Cup series, while Max Hess, he's the young up-and-coming factory BMW driver being enlisted by Trevor Racing Team for the season finale in Brno to help the team out. Max Hess staying patient. He knows he doesn't need to do that all at once, but of course at the same time the pit stop window is closing in. It shall be open again from the 25th until the 35th minute. So in about 6-7 minutes it will be open, and drivers will be able to come into the pits. Every one of them has to. Doesn't matter if you're doing the race on your own or sharing the car with someone else. Everyone has to do the pit stop, of course. It's only natural. But Milota not really allowing Hess into any major chances. They've been together. Hess is trying to pile the pressure on, but not really succeeding. Through the S's we go, and now starting to descend. Max Hess flashing his headlights. Or was that just the unfortunate camera angle? But drivers do that occasionally just to unnerve their rival. They just flash the headlights. But Libor not really making any mistakes. And yeah, as I mentioned, even though they are close to one another, there has been no overtaking just yet. Max Hess trying to read the line of Libor Milota and find the ideal place for an attempt. There was a little error from Max Hess in the Schwann's corner, as he went a little too deep and a little too fast into the corner and lost the rear a tiny little bit, so had to correct the initiating spin. He held that nicely, but lost a little bit of momentum through that. So around the final corner we go, with about 3.5 minutes left before the pit lane opens for the pit window. Salaquarda trailing, leading Konopka by about 4 seconds, but at the same time, and more crucially, he's got around 4 seconds to Libor Milota in second in the GT3 class. Václav Janík in fifth from Tony Herbeck, who's already dealt with Franz Lamer, apparently. Yes, he has. So Tony Herbeck actually up by 10 positions from the start. Franz Lamer in 7th from Manuel Susengut, Bob Bau 9th, Janos Santa in 10th. Behind him, Antal Žigo, Richard Vosic and Adam Centner. This, of course, is the closest fight on the track currently, and the most important one. Look how close Max Hess is. Max is trying, having a look down the inside. Is he going to send it? No, he isn't. But he really went very late on the brakes, so he then had to find some extra space around the outside, not to actually hit the Mercedes. And up the hill we go through the S's. Wonderful, wonderful angle. Wonderful view that we have on the fight. Approaching the second to last corner. It's just so pretty around here, I need to say. We're very happy to keep the Masaryk racing circuit, and we're just thrilled by what's up ahead and what can come in the future. And basically, with whomever I talk in the paddock, everybody's enjoying the weekend. As I said, and I've said it many times in the broadcast already, wonderful weather, absolutely amazing for the season finale. This is very picturesque. The track is beautiful, We've had thrilling action, entertaining races, and yeah, the weekend's simply perfect. And yeah, we just hope that more is to come in the future, because events like these, that's what we love to see. This used to be a venue for large international motorsports events like MotoGP. We even had DTM on occasions. We had the World Touring Car Championship, etc., etc. Pit lane is now open. A little twitch from Libor Milota coming into the second to last corner. And both of the GT3s are now coming back onto the start and finish straight. Still close to one another. Amazing fight between the two, but Max Hess is simply not finding his way past. Great defense. Ooh, now lock up by Libor Milota into the first corner, but great defense anyway. And Filip Salaquada has actually taken the opportunity to open up quite a large lead in the GT3 class, more than 8 seconds currently, but Libor Milota really not making any large mistakes and not allowing Max Hess through. They must be both enjoying the fight quite a lot. And when is either one of them going to come in? I would assume that for Libor Milota right now it doesn't make much sense to come in early. Otherwise he would be opening himself to overcut. János Santa entering the pits in his Aston Martin. If Libor pits early, then he's basically opening himself to a potential overcut by Max Hess, who's arguably the faster of the Trevor Racing's drivers, and he might try and stay in the car as long as possible by the pit window, as we're approaching the halfway mark of the race.
Most jön ki a Merci, Toma, figyelj, alá fog menni a piros Merci. Piros Merci és repül nagyon hátra.
In the meantime, the Mechanic Motorsport Lambo is in the Parc Fermé. And there's Libor Milota coming in. So he's actually coming in before the Trevor Racing's Mercedes. And the Lamborghini of Mechanic Motorsport that was rolled by Kurt Wagner after the unfortunate incident with Petr Lissa. It's already back in Parc Fermé, and yeah, the damage looks quite substantial. There is the Zonda, driven by Antonín Herbeck, who's coming into pits. And his rock robots, the mechanics, are waiting for him. There's the other Lambo in the distance. There's also the TCR Honda, not really entered in this race. János Santa coming back out in his Aston. There's one of the Porsches also in. Is that Franz Lahmer? Might very well be. Yep, in the pits. And there is Max Hess, now trying to overcut Libor Milota's Mercedes. really trying to drive on the edge to squeeze out all the possible performance. We've got one of the Porsches rolling quite slowly and actually pulling out of the race alongside the track. There it is. That's the car number 811, which is Manuel Susengut. The German driver already had issues before the sprint race, and he basically retired the car right when the race was about to be started. So further problems for the black and green Porsche, and that might bring out, well, definitely yellow flags, but potentially even a safety car, because he's pulling up at the side of the road right on the exit of the first corner. There is Max Hess, seemingly overdriving slightly, still sort of, well, the car is quite tail happy, so he's sliding slightly through some of the corners. I wonder what his back tire, what his rear tires are going to tell him. But Manuel Susengut is out of the race. I wonder what happened there. Has he been to the pits? Doesn't look like. No, he was not. He's not been in the pits, so, well, no issue that would be in any way related to the pit stop itself, although apart from swapping the drivers, not much is actually being done in the pit stop. There's no tyre changes, there's no refueling. Yeah, but as mentioned, Manuel Susengut has not been in the pits yet. We still have him on the side, at the side of the road, with the yellow flags being shown. This is the leading Ligier LMP3, driven by Miro Konopka. He's also set the fastest lap of the race on lap number 11. 2 minutes dead, 0.2. More and more cars coming in. We have got the Radical driven by Adam Centner and Matej Marcinkiewicz. And well, the pit stop is 2 minutes. The lap around the track is about 2 minutes. So these two are now back together. I was shocked a little bit for 1 second as to what was actually going on. But yeah, it's now Max Hess 1 lap up on Libor Milota. But of course, he still needs to serve his pit stop. Václav Janík coming in for Janík Motorsport on his way to the GTX title. And there they are again. Basically, Libor Milota should be shown blue flags because he's a lap down. But of course, this is for him as well, the direct fight for position, so he doesn't really want to let Max through. Why would he? And he's defending quite hard. This really should be blue flags for now, which is actually sort of fair/unfair. Yeah, this is his chance to actually protect the second place by not allowing Max Hess to go faster. Philippe Salaguarda diving into the pits for the last moment. And yeah, Max Hess needs to do the same on this lap, because otherwise the pit lane is going to close in about a minute. Yeah, so Max Hess coming in at the last possible moment. He won't be happy about Libor Milota not really letting him through, as that was already a blue flag situation. We have got also the race leader, Miro Konopka, in the pits with just under 26 minutes left on the clock. So this is going to get interesting. Who's going to come out on top in the fight? Is it going to be the GT2 Motorsport or / Mirage Motorsport, or is it going to be Trevor Racing? Because Max Hess is going to step out of the car. Gregor Gigot already ready. Well, Max is already out, of course. Gregor Gigot stepping in. In the meantime, the Porsche of Manuel Susengut being towed away. So we've managed without the safety car. So the race leader Miro Konopka coming back out of the pits, no problems at all. Same for Filip Salaquarda. He's also back out on track. There's also Antal Gigot coming in, maybe a tad late, because the pit stop window is now closed. Antal Gigot has now pulled into the pits. And we have got Gregor Gigot coming out onto the track. Quite a large bump at the end of the pit lane. And Gregor is now coming back onto the circuit. And what about his fight with Libor Milota? Is Trevor Racing ahead or not? So are we going to have a fight for second? Or no, it seems as though Libor Milota is already further up the road. Yes, he is. There is Gregor Gigot, but Libor Milota actually gained quite a significant advantage on this. And he's a couple of corners ahead. So for now, that's it for their fight in the GT3 class for the second place. So Konopka remains in the lead, that is for sure. This is the GT3 leader, Filip Salaquarda. And then it is Libor Milota in third. Overall, second in the GT3 class. We have got Gregor Gigot then in fourth. Antal Gigot was quite up the order, but he's only served his pit stop quite late. So he is going to fall back down. There he is in the M4 GT4 BMW, about to be lapped by the GT3 R8 Audi. Václav Janík is therefore back in fifth. Ooh, a little bit of a hairy moment for Filip Salaquarda, but no greater issues than that. Tony Herbeck in seventh, which will become sixth basically. And then behind it is Franz Lamer, Bob Bau, Janos Santa and Adam Zentner. Depending on where actually Antargico comes. And we're about to enter the last third of the race. That was very eventful at the start with the unfortunate accident between Peter Lissa and Kurt Wagner that sent Kurt Wagner rolling into the gravel trap here on this spot. And this is the race leader, Miro Konopka. Not really beaten on many occasions this year, but not always at the wheel of his LMP3 Ligier. We've also had him in the GT3 class with the Huracan Lamborghini. That's why he's basically in two classes this season. He was third in the GT3s at the Red Bull Ring with the Lambo, then second in Most. When it comes to endurance racing, but mostly he's been driving the prototypes. Well, mostly. On two occasions actually he was not on in Germany at Oschersleben. Then he drove the Ligier in Hungary at the Hungaroring, then of course on his home soil in Slovakia, and now for the third time here in Brno. And we've got an announcement of a penalty. That's car number 40, Tony Herbeck. 10-second penalty will be applied to his time at the end of the race for speeding in the pit lane. Well, Tony Herbeck and his team glad that they are even on track, as they had issues with the car's bodywork, but with the frame basically, and they had to fix that from the testing right before the weekend. And in the end they did manage to get going. There were issues for the car in the sprint earlier on, but all is well in today's race. So it's only going to be hampered, at least for now, it's only going to be hampered by the penalty for speeding in the pit lane, which is of course unfortunate, but that's of course something that you really need to be careful about. Janos Santa in his Aston Martin Vantage. Not really seen him for some time. Janos Santa, he entered the home Hungaroring round and now he's back for Brno. Otherwise he's not done any other race this year. So 15.5 minutes left on the clock as we're approaching the last quarter of the race now. And since the drama at the start, it's been rather quiet race. We did have the interesting fight between Libor Milota and Max Hess in the first half. But since the pit stop, they've been spread out quite a lot. And if you just check the live timing screen, we'll learn that Libor Milota... Oh, it says 1 lap. I don't think that's entirely correct. You see 38 seconds between them, Milota and Trevor Racing's Gregor Žigo at the moment. Václav Janík, on the other hand, is closing in on the 4th place overall. And there is the race leader, enjoying himself very much on the Saturday afternoon. There is Libor Milota, 2022 sprint race champion. To just examine the overall ESET Cup winners. We have to roll back into 2013. It was actually Miro Konopka who took the first 2 titles out of 3, I would say, so far. He's of course going to add some, let's say, smaller titles this year as well. So he was the overall winner in 2013 and 14, and then again in 2016, where he was driving his Lamborghini Huracan to the title glory. In the meantime, in 2015, it was actually Stefan Rosina at the B6 Alpina of Trevor Racing, and of course, and at the same time as well, the BMW Z4 prepared by Schenkis Motorsport. Stefan Rosina was supposed to drive here this weekend, but unfortunately in the end he isn't. But we've had him on this year as well. In 2017 it was Jakub Knoll taking the overall title. In 2018 Marcin Jedlinski in Olymp Racing's R8 Audi. Then in 2019 it was Richard Chlad Jr. So that was the second title for the KK Racing after Jakub Knoll. In 2020, it was Duck Racing's Daniel Skalicki in that COVID hit and therefore shortened season that actually started in July in Grobnik and ended in Hungary back then. For 2021, Marcin Jedlinski was back with Olymp Racing, this time with the AMG GT3 Mercedes, with which he took the title a year after that, and that was last year. It was actually this driver and this car, Libor Milota, taking the title glory. And for 2023, of course, the overall ESET Cup winner, Filip Salaguarda, with his Audi R8 prepared by ISR Racing. But we've also got quite a lot of titles to hand. Sprint racing titles, endurance titles, different classes. Then, of course, the ESET Cup series and the Central European Zone series, etc., etc. And all of that always comes to an end after the season to the award ceremony, which last year took place in Dunajská Streda. This year it's coming to Prague, so it's been announced that on the 28th of October the award ceremony is going to take place. On the same weekend as the Racing Expo exhibition in Letňany, where you'll be able to see some of the names and faces and cars from ESET Cup Series. And of course much more. And we're also anticipating quite heavily the calendar for 2024, which is about to be announced. So we'll see if we can have that for you by tomorrow's races. Just under 10 minutes left. Filip Salaquarda leading the GT3 class. Nothing changed about that. With a car that fell into trouble the last time out in Slovakia. With a failed clutch in the end. The team was trying to solve the issue by Sunday, but unfortunately they weren't unable to do so. So brought the car away, skipped the Sunday's program, but now they are back in Brno and back to their full glory and full speed, winning the sprint race earlier on and now on course to win the endurance race in the GT3 class as well. Franz Lahmer in the car number 825, the 911 Porsche. And look at all the glare from the sun, which is getting lower and lower towards the end of the day as we're approaching the 7th hour. And with that, of course, the sunset itself, which is then actually, but it's about to come in half an hour from now. So we'll actually finish the race round about 20 minutes before the sunset. And that, of course, also means that the podium ceremony and handing the trophies will be happening at the sunset. So it's only going to be a fitting end to the season, fitting end to the day, and quite something for photographers. Quite difficult lighting conditions, but if you're skillful, then it's just great and great shots to be had at the end of the day. Antal Gigot on his way to the GT4 title in his M4 BMW, also prepared by Trevor Racing. So this is the season finale in Brno, usual venue for the last race of the season. We did race in Germany after a while. It was actually a nice comeback for some. me personally as well. As we raced at Oschersleben for the opening round of the season earlier on this year. Then came the Hungarian round outside Budapest. Then we had the Red Bull Ring round in Austria. Then Autodrom Most in the Czech Republic. Slovakia Ring in Slovakia in August. And now, of course, the season finale in Brno. We lost the rounds in Poland and in Croatia at Tor Poznań and Autodrom Grobnik. I understand there were talks to bring them back, but with the racing calendar about to be unveiled, we'll see whether those talks were successful or not. And what races we're going to have in 2024, where we're going to be racing next year. Of course, after this round, well, this is the season finale for most of the championships. We've already talked about Formula 4 that unfortunately could not race in Germany during the season opener, but they still want to have 6 rounds, and the last one about to come probably. There were plans to stage it on the brand new track at Balaton Park. However, with still the homologation pending, it appears that that's not going to happen, but still discussions going on in the background as to where to stage the season finale for the Formula 4. Otherwise, I'm actually quite happy that we're managing to get all the championships finished the season at the same venue on the same weekend, because it's a fitting end to a beautiful season that again was a great place to be. So yeah, if you have not managed to come visit any of the rounds, or maybe you have and would like to come once again, we're very, very glad and very happy that you're watching together with us. If you can't be at the track, or maybe you are at the track and still watching, which hats off to you and thanks very much to you. Yeah, but we'll be really happy to see each other and meet wherever possible in 2024. So it's a great little championship, the ESET Cup Series, and we're really happy that you're following us and you're enjoying all of it together with us. There's great racing, there's great soundtrack, wonderful cars to look at, great driving efforts and performances, and above all, wonderful, wonderful people and great community. And with that, we're really approaching the dying moments of the race with Miro Konopka, who's just driven across the line. And his lap time was 2:02.0, which basically means that the next time he's going to cross the line, it's going to be the very last seconds. But we're of course doing an hour plus 1 lap, so depending on that, we're going to see either 1 or 2 further laps. And there it comes. It's the lap. It's the car number 500, Antal Žigo. I did see him enter the pits after the 35th minute, which of course means that he served the pit stop incorrectly, and with that he'll have a 30 seconds added to his race time. It's not really going to make much of a difference for him, as he's leading the GT4 class anyway, and he's on course to win the title anyway. There is Miro Konopka, the race leader. 45 seconds left. We're about to make our way around Kevin Schwann's corner once again.
And there we go across the line. 3, 2, 1. I believe he's just made it across the line before the time was up. Which would now mean that this is basically another racing lap plus 1 lap. I believe that he did make it across the line before the time was up. But really only just. It must have been less than a second. So we just keep going. Yeah. It's like a great rock concert where you just don't want to finish. You just keep going and fans want more. Just keep rocking and rolling. And look at the glare now. Look at the sun really sinking behind the horizon. So this now actually appears to be the final lap, is it? Yes, it is then. Well, we've seen photo finishes this year on a number of occasions. This was basically a photo finish between Miro Konopka's car and the time itself. But either way, at least what the graphics say, we are on the last lap of the race. So the final time that we're now making our way up the hill and onto the final 2 corners. And let's now welcome Miro Konopka at the start and finish line, and the checkered flag is currently being waved. This is the race's end, and it's also the day's end. Miro Konopka snatching victory, and with that snatching the prototype title in the D5 class. And we're now also waiting for Filip Salaquarda. There he goes. This is the GT3 leader, already a champion of the endurance racing in the GT3 class. So he is just going to confirm the title with yet another dominant display and yet another dominant victory here in Brno. There is Libor Milota, second in the GT3 class. There is Filip Salaquarda coming across the line to take a 5th victory out of 6 endurance races this year. The only one not coming his way was the Slovakia ring round, where he was stopped by a technical failure. There is Libor Milota making his way up the hill. And into the final 2 corners, Libor Milota. That was Antal Žigo winning the GT4 class. Libor Milota victorious, second in the GT3 class, 3rd overall. Václav Janík is going to wrap it up in the GTX class. We were really hoping for a GTX fight between the 2 KTMs. Unfortunately, we lost the RTR Projects one at the end of the 1st lap in that unfortunate crash with the GTC class leader, or to say the title contender, Kurt Wagner. Both of them were out on the spot, unfortunately, and that robbed both of them of the chance of winning the title in their respective classes. So very, very unfortunate. And Václav Janík snatches the title with P4 overall and victory in the GTX class. He was actually half a minute further up the road from the 2nd placed GTX car, which was Tony Herbeck in his Pagani Zonda, who was also collecting a 10-second penalty for speeding in the pit lane. The pairing of Max Hess and Gregor Žigo finishing 6th on the road, having started on the last row of the grid. So great stuff from Trevor Racing as well. Franz Lahmer in 7th from the Polish pairing of Adam Zentner and Maciej Marcinkiewicz. Janos Santa 9th. and Antal Shigo in P10. Behind the top 10, it is Bob Bau and Richard Voschic. We've lost Manuel Susengut. We've lost the pairing of Maciej Pavlíček and Joachim Galaš. Then the pairing of Kurt Wagner and Josef Záruba, and also the pairing of Petr Lisa and Pavel Sovička. So that is it for the final race of the day. So those were the highlights of the final race of the day. We've still got one more left in 2023, and that is, of course, the Sunday's program coming tomorrow. And we've still got great races coming up. So we'll be back together at 10:35 with the second Renault Clio Cup race, and after that, TCR and GT races number 2. From now on, my name's Pavel Fabry. I'm your commentator for the weekend, and from now on, it is a very warm goodbye.